2:30 a.m. Belbek Air Base, Crimea. A Russian sentry drags on his cigarette near the runway, white smoke curling into the freezing fog. He has no idea that just 10 feet above the Black Sea waves a racing spec FP-5 drone modified to scream at 120 miles per hour is tearing toward him right now. Countdown 30 seconds, 20, 10. Air raid sirens explode across the base. Panzer S-1 batteries swivel wildly, radar screens flooded with context. This is only the first decoy layer. The real swarm has already split into 5 separate kill chains, each one designed to exploit a different blind spot in Russia's billion-dollar defense network. Russia thought they had locked down Crimea's airspace. Fatal mistake. And the biggest mystery of all, a $50 million Su-34 strike fighter is about to vanish in a way that will haunt the Kremlin for months. Not shot down, not crashed. Something far worse. Keep watching, because Russia's nightmare has only just begun. From the first attack, Ukraine launched the largest drone swarm since the beginning of 2026. Over 150 FPV drones, each one stripped down and modified with high-thrust motors, come screaming in from the Black Sea at altitudes below 100 feet. At 120 to 150 miles per hour, they're using the wave clutter and sea spray to mask their radar signatures, appearing on Russian screens as nothing more than electronic noise. Inside the Panzer S-1 command cabin at Belbek, the operator's face goes pale. His targeting computer is trying to track hundreds of small, erratic contacts simultaneously. The system wasn't designed for this. "Engage all targets," the battery commander screams over the radio. "Light them up." The twin 30mm autocannons roar to life, spitting out 300 rounds per minute. But these aren't standard rounds. The crews have loaded airburst ammunition shells programmed to detonate mid-flight and spray shrapnel across a wide kill zone. It's devastatingly effective against drone swarms. The sky lights up with overlapping explosions, each one shredding multiple decoys. Within 90 seconds, nearly 70% of the first wave is torn apart. Burning debris rains into the surf, but the Panzer's fire control computer is starting to lag. Tracking this many targets simultaneously is pushing the system beyond its design limits. Response times are slowing by critical milliseconds. At the same time, a second Panzer battery near Saki Air Base is burning through its 12-missile loadout, firing 57 E-6 missiles at targets that are zigzagging at ground level. Each missile costs more than most Ukrainian families earn in a lifetime, and they're being expended on cheap decoys built from hobby-grade components. In Kiev, the SBU operator monitoring the attack clenches his fists. "They just burned their expensive ammunition on toys," he whispers. Now comes the real punch. On the Russian side, someone makes a critical decision. Activate Krasnodar 4. Maximum power. Jam everything. The massive electronic warfare system roars to life, pumping out white noise across every frequency band. Please pay attention to this. Because of that jamming signal, it's about to blind their own systems. But let's put that aside for now. I'll show you the core of this successful campaign later. 5 miles from Belbek's perimeter fence, 3 civilian cargo trucks sit parked on a rural access road. At exactly 2:52 a.m., the container's roof hinges open. Short-range FPV drones, these ones carrying 5 to 10-pound shape-charged warheads, launch in rapid succession. They've been positioned inside the S-400's minimum engagement range, the blind spot where the long-range missiles can't swivel down fast enough to intercept low-altitude threats. The Panzer batteries, their missile racks empty, and their autocannons overheated from the decoy saturation try to engage. But their targeting computers are still processing the residual clutter from the first wave. The guns traverse too slowly. The remaining crews watch in horror as the Ukrainian drones slip through their defensive envelope like smoke through a screen door. The first warhead impacts a Panzer stationed at the Belbek fuel depot. The shaped charge punches through the vehicle's roof armor, and the internal ammunition cook-off turns the entire system into a Roman candle. At the exact same moment, something else is approaching from a completely different vector. 4 Beaver long-range drones, launched from positions near Odessa over 600 miles away, have been flying a carefully programmed nap-of-the-earth profile for the past 3 hours. Cruising at altitudes below 150 feet using the terrain contours of Crimea's coast and the curvature of the Earth itself to stay below S-400 radar coverage, they've remained completely invisible. I've seen in many comments that you don't believe these tiny drones could cause such massive explosions. Well, their targets aren't random. Ukrainian intelligence spent months mapping the exact GPS coordinates of fuel storage tanks, ammunition bunkers, and logistics hubs across 5 air bases. The first Beaver slams into Belbek's primary fuel depot at 2:57 a.m. The 20-pound warhead, using the Monroe effect to focus explosive energy into a superheated jet, doesn't just puncture the tank. It vaporizes a cone-shaped hole through the steel wall, and the fuel inside doesn't leak. It detonates. The shock wave ripples outward. Adjacent tanks rupture. A river of burning diesel spreads across the concrete, and within seconds, the entire storage complex is engulfed. The heat is so intense that nearby aircraft start blistering their paint. At Saki, another Beaver hits the ammunition bunker. The initial blast is almost gentle, a muffled thump. Then the stored ordnance inside begins to detonate in a cascading chain reaction. Artillery shells, rocket warheads, and air-to-ground missiles cook off in sequence, each explosion triggering the next. The Jankoy Logistics Center destroyed. The Kharovskoy Ammunition Depot on fire. The Simferopol Fuel Depot vanished. This was a nearly complete localized saturation attack on Crimea. Inside the Belbek command room, the base commander was shouting into a malfunctioning radio. He couldn't understand where the drones came from. How could they have penetrated so deeply? But now there was something more to worry about. He realized the S-400 system was tracking multiple large targets, but they were moving too fast and too low. Whether they were Storm Shadow cruise missiles or something else, he knew what Ukraine was really targeting: the fighter aircraft system. Start everything. Get all aircraft off before the fire spreads. On Belbek's main runway, 4 Su-34 fullback strike fighters sit with engines already spooled up. The pilots have been on alert since 2 a.m. when intelligence warnings suggested possible Ukrainian activity. But nobody expected this. Nobody anticipated an attack launched from inside the perimeter using civilian vehicles. The lead Su-34, weighing 99,000 pounds, fully loaded, begins rolling. Behind it, 3 more fighters follow in tight sequence. The runway is illuminated only by the glow of burning fuel tanks 980 feet away. Smoke is starting to drift across the tarmac, reducing visibility to near zero. The lead pilot advances his throttles to military power. The twin Saturn AL-31F engines roar and the massive fighter accelerates. Airspeed climbs 80 knots, 120, 150, rotation speed. The nose lifts and the Su-34 claws into the night sky, climbing at a steep angle to clear the smoke and chaos below. Inside the cockpit, the pilot's heart is hammering. His hands grip the stick tightly. "Stay low," he mutters to his navigator. "Stay below their drones." But as the 4 Su-34s level off at 500 feet, heading north toward the relative safety of Russian airspace, something else is waiting. The third swarm layer. Thermal-guided FPV drones, 40 to 50 of them pre-positioned along the northern escape corridor. These aren't the decoys, these are hunter-killers equipped with infrared sensors locked on to the heat signatures of fighter jet engines. They rise from concealed positions in the tree line, vectoring toward the Su-34s like heat-seeking missiles. But they're not aiming for a direct hit. They're targeting sensor pods, engine intakes, and cockpit glass. The lead Su-34 pilot sees them on his threat display. Missile launch evading. He banks hard right, but the drones adjust their trajectories instantly, their algorithms predicting his movement. 2 FPVs detonate against the aircraft's left engine nacelle. Shrapnel tears through the turbine blades and the engine immediately begins surging. Warning lights flood the cockpit. Then something even worse happens. Yes, you remember what I just said. It's right now. The Krasnodar 4 electronic warfare system, still pumping out maximum power jamming, doesn't discriminate between Ukrainian drones and Russian aircraft. The Su-34's onboard systems, designed to operate within certain electromagnetic parameters, are overwhelmed by the white noise broadcast from their own EW units. GPS goes haywire, showing the aircraft somewhere over the Caspian Sea. GLONASS backup also jammed. This is electronic fratricide. Russia's own jamming system is blinding its own pilots. The lead Su-34 is already damaged and veering off course. The 3 remaining fighters immediately tighten formation, their pilots executing a coordinated defense they've drilled 100 times. 8 FPV drones climb from the tree line below thermal seekers locked on. The trailing Su-34 punches flares while simultaneously activating its DIRCM turret. Magnesium burns at 2,000 degrees, pulling 4 drones off target. The infrared laser fires, blinding 2 more mid-flight. They tumble dead into the darkness. But 6 more drones are already diving from above, ignoring the flares, their cameras hunting for the largest heat signatures. The lead remaining Su-34 brakes hard left, deliberately positioning itself near the Panzer radar emissions, still bleeding from the burning base below. 3 drones hesitate their simple processors, confused by the massive ground clutter. They veer off and impact uselessly in the dirt. The final 3 drones stay locked. The wingman Su-34 rolls inverted and activates its Kabini pod, broadcasting jamming energy that floods the drone's control frequencies with white noise. For 3 seconds, they lose data link completely. That's enough. The formation leader deploys chaff while diving hard, and the blind drones overshoot, detonating 1,300 feet behind them in empty air. 3 Su-34s level out in tight formation systems, overheated but engines still running. They've survived by fighting as one unit, each aircraft covering the other's blind spots with overlapping countermeasures. Ukraine just learned that killing fleeing fighters is exponentially harder than bombing static targets. The lead Su-34 is still airborne, but barely. The pilot is fighting for control. His left engine is running at 40% power, vibrating so badly that the entire airframe shakes. But they can't land at Belbek, it's on fire. Anyway, they are excellent pilots, and they chose Krasnodar. It's across the Kerch Strait, about 150 miles northeast. They maintained an altitude of 1,000 feet, steering the damaged aircraft toward mainland Russia. This distance was manageable. A healthy Su-34 could reach it in 15 minutes. But this aircraft was leaking hydraulic fluid, had a malfunctioning flight computer, and the pilot was flying in a state of information overload due to the equipment failure. Worse still, they had lost contact with the air defense team at Krasnodar. Requests for immediate landing clearance went unanswered. Radio interference persisted. And what if the S-400 spotted a fighter jet without being able to determine friend or foe? You see, the Su-34's IFF antenna was likely sheared off by shrapnel from the earlier FP-5 strike, leaving it silent to Russian-friendly radars. To the battery operators at Krasnodar, this wasn't a friendly fullback. It was a ghost on the scope, an unidentified intruder screaming toward their airspace. Remember, Krasnodar's S-400 system had been on high alert since reports of attacks in Crimea began pouring in. Immediately, a single 48 N6 missile was launched from the vertical bay, its engine blazing with a blinding flash. It climbed to 15,000 feet, locked onto its target, and plunged. The Su-34 pilots knew what they needed to do. Without hesitation, both crew members pulled the ejection handle simultaneously. As for the Su-34, Russia was destroying its own property. Back in Crimea, the inferno rages. Ukrainian Beaver drones and surviving FP-5 units strike the nerve center. Not the planes themselves, but the fuel trucks, ammo loaders, and maintenance hubs that keep them alive. At Kirovskoye, one drone slams into a fuel truck wedged between rows of fighters. The blast sprays burning jet fuel across the tarmac, swallowing a Su-30SM and MiG-31 in seconds. Aluminum airframes glow red, then melt like wax. Meanwhile, at Simferopol, another hits an ammo loader near Su-27s. The first explosion is sharp. The secondary chain is apocalyptic shells cook off in sequence, shrapnel ripping through 5 jets parked wing to wing. Belbec's fuel depot is already ablaze. Flames leap to nearby hangars, devouring 3 Su-34s mid-repair. The roof caves in, entombing twisted wreckage. Saki's helicopter zone erupts next to Mi-28's munitions detonate the shockwave, flipping a massive Mi-26 onto its side, snapping rotors and crushing the tail. Russian crews sprint through smoke and chaos. Some grab hoses, others just run. Commanders scream over jammed radios. Fire trucks arrive, but aviation fuel floats on water and laughs at their streams. By dawn, the toll is brutal. 15 aircraft gone, 11 fixed-wing Su-34s. Su-30s, Su-27s, Su-24s, MiG-31s, 3 helicopters, Mi-28s, Mi-26, Mi-8, 1 and 26 transport. Fuel and ammo depots gutted at multiple bases. Damage over $1 billion. And then there's the ghost of Su-34 that vanished near Krasnodar. Leaks flood Telegram within 48 hours, not from Kiev, but from shaken Russian military channels. Maxar and Planet Labs satellites reveal the scars, 15 black scorch marks on runways, collapsed hangars, cratered fuel sites, and unmistakable wreckage in a Krasnodar field. Russian media stays mute, but rumors are spreading about this mysterious incident. Some say it was caused by Ukraine, others by technology. But one thing is certain, this is sparking a lot of controversy in Russia. But the truth seeps out, Russia's own defenses turned on them. Overloaded EW blinded the transponder. Panicked operators saw a low erratic target and fired. Ukraine stays silent, they don't need to speak. The damage is done. One night, Russia lost more than $1 billion in birds fuel ammo and trust. Pilots now fear their own radars. Air defense batteries pull back from the front, opening gaps. Ukraine's drones are exploited instantly. Glide bombs drop 40% the next week. The battlefield tilted, but the Su-34's end lingers. Fratricide from jamming gone wrong or friendly fire in pure panic. Please leave your comments below, fratricide or friendly fire. Like if cheap drones beat billion-dollar shields. Subscribe for the next nightmare breakdown. Stay safe, folks, and never max your jammers with your own jets airborne. See you soon.